Juneau Superior Court is now in session with the Honorable Amy Mead presiding. All right, we're going to take up 1JU 19747 and 19646, State of Alaska versus Corey Thompson. Mr. Kovac, can you hear me?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Thompson, are you on the line?
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Kemp?
I think that it's actually somebody else should be on there for Mr. Thompson. I think Ms. Gibson.
You were the only... Is there another prosecutor on the line?
No. Huh. Okay. Well, let me just... I'm here then.
All right. Well, I think one of the reasons why this got continued was to make sure that the DA's office had adequate time to contact the victim. Do you know if that has been done?
Let me pull up his case, Judge. I didn't realize I would be doing this. Hang on one second. Let's see. Mr. Thompson. All right, let's see. Spoke with, is that Miss Gibson? Oh, okay. Spoke with Miss Lee on the phone regarding bail hearing. And it looks like...
This is Miss Gibson.
Ms. Kemp, do you want to defer to Ms. Gibson?
Sure, I'll just finish summarizing. So the question, Miss Gibson, by the court was whether we made contact about the bail hearing, and it looks like we have. And yes. I just thought to reiterate her position.
Please go ahead and do that. Thank you.
So the victim, when we spoke to her yesterday, indicated she doesn't have an opposition to the request and would not be in attendance for today's hearing.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Kovac, why don't you go ahead and tell me what you're asking for?
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, I want to just make a correction. In my filing, I wrote that Mr. Thompson has asthma and a heart condition. After speaking more with him, I have now cleared up my own misconception. That asthma is not an asthma that is diagnosed. He doesn't carry an inhaler, but he does self-report long issues of having trouble breathing at times. And his heart condition is actually a severe heartburn, acid reflux, not anything that's cardiovascular in nature. But he does take medication for that, omeprazole, daily for that severe acid reflux. So the health conditions that I had filed are diminished somewhat, Your Honor, given that correction there. And I also want to say, before I say any more, that, Your Honor, the jails are doing a fine job, an excellent job, keeping things extremely clean and keeping everyone safe, especially Ketchikan Jail, which is where my client is currently residing. I know that firsthand, that they're doing a great job. And though Mr. Thompson isn't elderly or infirm, he is still at risk of COVID-19. And more importantly, he could put other inmates at risk if the virus were to creep into our facilities. And again, everyone is making their best efforts to prevent that. But in all likelihood, it will, Your Honor. That's the nature of a virus. And I'm just arguing that we need to give DOC all of the space and all of the resources that we can afford to give them right now. And Mr. Thompson, my client, he's been in that jail, in Ketchikan Jail, for over 10 months. This is a nonviolent property offense. Our request is that the monetary bail be lowered to zero and that he be released. Our plan would be that he would return to Juneau. We would have him report to PED. It would be our request that he be fitted with an ankle monitor. We ask that he stay with his mother. His mother has opened her home to him should he be released. She resides at 9204 Cinema Drive. We'd ask that he be placed under house arrest conditions. Under house arrest and ankle monitor, that's something we can apply later for to get jail credit. I just believe that given the current circumstances, the community's safety can be assured. Mr. Thompson can be safer than where he is currently. Not to say that he's not safe, but he could be safer. This is just seemingly a very cheaper, easier, less restrictive release plan here, Your Honor. We ask that the court consider it given all the current circumstances.
Ms. Gibson?
Thank you, Judge. I will note that the victim, when she was contacted, was given the information about Mr. Thompson's health issues as we understood them, or as we all understood them at the time. I don't believe that would have materially changed her position, but she did consider that when saying she didn't oppose this. I was prepared to come in and make little to no opposition, but considering that Mr. Thompson does not have asthma and does not have a heart condition, I would oppose this request. Mr. Thompson was out, although, as Mr. Kovac noted, this is a property crime. He also has a violating conditions of release case open. He has a case in Ketchikan. He simultaneously had a case in Ketchikan, which has been resolved, I believe. And then he also has another case out of Anchorage. I'm not quite sure of the status of that case. It looks like Mr. Thompson has been a pretty busy man when it comes to breaking into people's houses and stealing things and stealing vehicles. And I'm just trying to pull up his criminal history here, Judge. It's being a little finicky. If I could have one moment. Mr. Thompson was convicted in 2018 of concealment of merchandise, which is a low-level misdemeanor. In 2013 of burglary in the second, as well as theft in the second, theft in the third, and theft in the fourth. In 2010, he was convicted of theft in the second. In 2009, a harassment 2. In 2008, a failure to appear, a violating conditions of release, and a driving while license was suspended. Also in 2008, a second failure to appear, a second violating conditions of release, and 2 counts of reckless driving.
May I ask, Ms. Gibson, Mr. Kovac's proposal is that Mr. Thompson be on electronic monitoring and on house arrest at his mother's house. And I guess I just need to hear, what is the state's position with respect to why that would not be sufficient to assure his compliance?
Basically, Judge, I'm just looking at Mr. Thompson's demonstrated history of failing to comply with conditions of release and failing to appear. Also, his demonstrated history in this case of failing to follow conditions of release. Mr. Thompson has been given several chances on bail and on different constellations of conditions of release, and just continuously fails to follow those. And so that's what I'm basing it on, because I don't know Mr. Thompson. I don't know how well he would do on house arrest, but I can look back at his history and look at the history of this case and see that he doesn't tend to follow court orders very well.
Well, his V4 is for failure to appear, right?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, ma'am.
Nope, that's fine. Go ahead. I'm finished.
All right, one moment.
Your Honor, this is Officer Comar with pretrial.
Yes?
Are we speaking about Corey Chad Thompson?
Yes.
So I have a case note here that says that he was ordered to pretrial in the past. He was supposed to report on June 18th of 2019, and he failed to report to our office. Just wanted to let you know that.
Right. There's actually a VCOR that's the VCOR that is before me.
Perfect.
So, Mr. Thompson, Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, so the state's correct, and Officer Komar, they're correct. You don't have a good history of complying with the court's orders. You don't have a history of there's very little reason for me to assume that you are going to show up and call in and keep in touch with your attorney as I order you to do. I am going to grant your attorney's request, but I'm going to place you on some pretty strict conditions. I'm going to require you to I'm going to require you to sign a $5,000 unsecured performance bond. Do you know what that means?
Not exactly.
Okay, that means that you are signing a piece of paper that says you are going to appear in court when you are ordered to do so, and if you don't, you're going to owe the state $5,000.
Okay.
I'm going to place you on PED supervision with electronic monitoring.
Okay.
I'm going to require you to be 24 hours, 7 days a week. What's your mother's name?
Her name is Trina Hostetler.
Can you spell her last name?
Hostetler.
Hossetler?
Sorry, I'll slow down. Hos. T-E-T.
E-T-E-T.
No, T-E-T, sorry.
T-E-T.
And then L-E-R.
Okay.
Hostetler, yeah.
All right. And she resides at?
9204 Cinema Drive.
All right.
And that was in apartment 10C, correct, Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, you are already going to be under order per the City and Borough of Juneau and the Governor's quarantine order that you will need to self-quarantine for 14 days once you arrive in Juneau.
Okay.
I'm additionally, though, placing you on house arrest. Do you understand?
Yes.
You're also ordered, sir, to stay in touch with Mr. Kovac. This is very important because the court dates in your case are subject to changing fairly quickly because of the ongoing pandemic. If you don't stay in touch with Mr. Kovac, you're not going to know when your court dates are. If you don't appear, which you'll be appearing telephonically at your future court date, most likely, I will issue a bench warrant for your arrest.
Okay.
When is the next court date in this case? A change of plea on May 12th?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is Mr. I should have asked this question. I didn't realize this was on for a change of plea in May. Is there a time to be served? Is there an agreement?
We do have an agreement, Your Honor. There will be several months left to serve, which is why we wanted to get him under these conditions right now.
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
Your Honor, after the change of plea, we imagine that there would be several more months for a PSR and a sentencing date. And so, yes, we are asking that he be allowed to serve this time that he will get credit for, given the house arrest conditions, and that will go towards his final sentence.
Ms. Gibson, were you aware of that?
I was aware that there is a change of plea and that Mr. Thompson will likely have more time to serve. I think that Mr. Kovac did mention something about applying later to get credit in an email to me, yes.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Thompson, your next court date, and this date is not going to change, is May 12th at 2:30.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else from the state?
No, Judge.
Is there a no contact order with the victim in this case? Heritage Coffee?
I don't see one, actually.
I think there was one issued in July of 2019. So, Mr. Thompson, I'm going to continue that.
Okay, Judge.
And the last thing, just to make clear, you posted a $500 performance bond. Is that correct?
My mother did.
All right, that still remains in effect.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
All right. Anything else for Mr. Thompson?
No, Judge.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, Mr. Thompson, you can hang up. Thank you. And Mr. Kovac, you can too. Is Mr. Eiler on the phone? All right, this is 1JU2348. Do I have Mr. Dunmeyer?
Yes, Judge.
Ms. Kemp?
Yes.
I'm not sure why Mr. Eiler is not calling in. Do we want to contact Lemon Creek, Madam Clerk?
I did. They said he was released.
Judge, he's not in custody. I expected him to call into this hearing. I talked to him either yesterday or the day before.
Okay. Well, we don't have Mr. Eiler on the phone, so I guess we're not going forward today.
May I disconnect and try reaching him and get him to call in?
I'll give you a couple minutes to do that, yes.
Thank you.
Pause, yep.
Judge, this is Ms. Gibson. May I be excused?
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you.
This is the Juneau courtroom. Who just joined the line?
Andrew Dunmeyer.
Did you get a hold of Mr. Eiler?
No, I got his voicemail.
All right, let's go back on record. All right, just to make the record clear, Mr. Dunmeyer, you were not able to get a hold of Mr. Eiler?
That's correct, Judge. I called the cell phone number that I was able to find for him in my digital file because I'm working from home and left a voicemail for him.
All right, Ms. Kemp, is there anything else that you would like to see happen?
No, not at this point. I know Ms. Komar is on the line, and I just want, for as much maybe for Mr. Dunmeyer's benefit, there has been some concerns about Mr. Eiler disconnecting his unit, his GPS unit, the EM device, and he's been given repeated instructions not to do that, and that's why she was on the line today. And so if Mr. Dunmeyer has questions about that for her, I know that she would be more than happy to talk to him about what's been going on, but that he needs to, if he gets in touch with him, maybe it would be helpful if Mr. Dunmeyer could remind him not to disconnect that EM device. So in other words, the unit is my understanding.
Well, Mr. Eiler is on house arrest at his parents' residence, is he not?
He is.
With electronic monitoring?
He is, right. And so I think maybe if I'm going to probably step on my tongue here a little bit because I don't know all the ins and outs of the particular equipment, but my understanding is that they're not supposed to unplug the unit and move the unit itself around. So the thing that plugs into the wall, and that has some effects on the integrity of the system, as I understand it. But so he's been given instructions not to do that. That's the point.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess, Mr. Dunmeyer, if you get in touch, you can file a new request.
Well, Judge, could we set this over for a day and try to address it there? I assume they'll be able to reach him within a day, and then we can take up this issue and not go through the process of refiling the paperwork and rescheduling it.
Ms. Kemp, there's another bail hearing set for tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that under the circumstances we can do that. Well, anyway, that's fine.
All right, well, I'll stagger them a little bit just so everyone's not waiting on the phone. Mr. Dunmeyer, how about 11:15?
That works for me, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
The chairperson has disconnected.